Hi, my name is Bob Grunier, and I'm a volunteer with the Martin Fleischmann Memorial Project. Can you hear me? I've got some errors on the screen. Things are all a bit squiffy at the moment. Hi, Tony Yavoni. Hi, Bo Sinclair. Hi, Jock of all ages, William Schwant, Artifact, Matt M422, Gordon Doherty is in the house, John Hoddle, Mr. Gate Mode, Martin Kemp, Nick Knock, Nick Moore, Ben Factor, Venom K, Verity Hound. It's still complaining the YouTube is not receiving enough stream, so I might have to reboot this. Let me just see what's going on here. It says you're going to receive buffering. So let me find out what is going on. It might be okay for the audio, but I haven't changed any images right now. How is everyone this a beautiful summer evening here in the Northern Hemisphere? This 18th of August 2024. Not receiving enough video. So far, so good. Okay, well, it is complaining. Let me reset that, see what it thinks. A few teething problems. Getting back into the swing of things. Thank you, Vanilla Isis, for your kind donation. That really helps. Okay, still saying not enough data. Sorry for those that are in the Antipodean there down in New Zealand. Elusive 323. Hi, TP Sven. Just can't see you. That's because I haven't switched the camera. Can you see me now? Am I a bit jerky? I'm on my old mic at the moment because I forgot to bring my other microphones in. It's actually a better sound, but I have to be speaking into it. I mean, I can ignore the comment, but it's saying, YouTube not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Is that the case? Echoes, double sound. Okay, all right, let me fix those things. Sorry. Okay. Right. I think I know why that is. Goodbye. I need the road. Okay, can you only hear no echo here? No echo here. And no echo here. Is that okay? Thank you for helping me through that. What a highly unprofessional start to the stream. Still complaining about the data rate, but anyway. Now all is well. Well, let's see if all is well. I'm recording it locally, so it shouldn't be too bad. Hi, Alex Del Castillo. Great to have you here. Yin Gazda. Fantastic also. And Quad 10. Green Hiker. Wow, we have quite the forum here. So I better say something useful rather than it's not working. I think it is working. Okay, good, good, good. Thank you for helping me get this up and running, guys. You are very gracious. Hi, Jacoby 6000. Right. Wonderful. Okay. It's good to just sit there with a complaint, but apparently it's okay. Right. Where have I been, says Misunderstood? All over. In short, lots of very interesting things we have for you moving forward. And you might ask, what have I got going on this screen here? This very busy screen here. Ode Relentless. Relentless. In the background, there is a image I took of a stellar in the second largest ossuary in Europe, which is here in my hometown in Brno, in the Czech Republic. Just about 10-12 minutes walk from where I'm sat now. And This ossuary has about 50,000 skeletons of poor departed fellow humans. And this particular stele, at the top, the apex, it has this kind of like curtains. Like you're parting the curtains on a proscenium arch of a theatre. And it's medieval. And I think it's quite humorous. It's got a flying time device here. And what I've arranged over the top is some things that we might be discussing, which is working with nature, and then the Vega, pump. What's pump? I don't know what pump is. Zeus. Don't know what Zeus is. Wind, we might be able to guess what that is. Suck. Don't know what all these things are. Some numbers over here as well. What's this? This is 1.618, and this is 0.618. What, did I miss the one off there? How is that related to that one? I don't know. And also there's an angle here. This angle is on an angle. 76.345 degrees. Very good. Benfactor says implosion and explosion. 2 spiral vortices. Best numbers in the world over there. Yes, I guess. So what are we talking about? Well, I've been having a discussion with some key members that collaborate with the MFMP, and we came up with a plan to be relentless. Either we have an understanding of how things work, potentially, at some level, or we don't. And if we're to move forward, thinking that we do, let's try and deliver something of practical use with our research. And so Relentless is it's kind of like how I see nature. Nature is relentless. It doesn't matter what you do, nature's going to do its thing. It doesn't care about your opinion. It doesn't care about what you think. It's just going to do what it does. And even if we mess things up, even if we, in our short, fleeting existences, cause some cataclysm by our ineptitude or our greed or our overuse of resources or whatever it is, nature will move on. It is relentless. And we need to be what we are, which is part of nature, and to be relentless in our pursuit of finding solutions. There's a lot of talk about problems, and these are always framed in a way that says, we need to control you, or we need to tax you, which is kind of controlling you anyway, by proxy. But the solutions, sometimes, they're not so great. But people are trying, and that's okay. But perhaps because nature is actually very lazy, and in another terms I can call it efficient, if we understand how nature actually works, then maybe we can do things that nature appears to be able to do and do it very efficiently. And so I've said this before, if you are working with nature, it will be the easiest way to do anything. If you are doing something in a way that nature doesn't want to do it, you are always going to be working against nature and fighting it. And it's going to be inefficient. And so this relentless word I want to drum into everyone, because we want to be relentless. And in our plans, the idea is to push forward to minimum viable products. Push forward to minimum viable products. And some you may know that we have been doing in the past are the wind hex, and we've been discussing the Kladov device, and we've been working with Binzhuan Huang, trying to help them understand their technology, but also to expand its capability, the COP that comes from it, and the understanding of it. And these, in my view, are both aspects of this same sacred geometry structure. Vega here, you know, we're no good as a scientific investigative body if we cannot replicate the work that we do. Of course, in the case of Ultra, that's been replicated over and over again by ourselves and by third parties and other institutions. But I reached out, as you may be aware, to Henk and sought for his collaboration to replicate the Vega Valley, which was, along with the work of the late, sadly departed Neil Crichton Gold, Lion reactors, and the analysis of John Hutchison samples. The study of the Vega Valley was absolutely critical to getting to the bottom of the structure, the magnetohydrodynamic structure, the fractal toroidal moment bearing structure that appears to do the magic. And so I would like to do a replication with him, and for this to be a basis, ideally for ICCF 26 in Japan, presentation of the MFMP along with associated information. And that is well underway, as you'll see in a minute, with a image. And in the coming days, you'll see video clips relating to that work that's already being spearheaded by Henk Urian in the Netherlands. The wind hex, again, so the Vega is basically so that we can show that two key technologies, ultrasound and plasma experiments, can be replicated. And we intend to publish the schematics of the power supplies and the analysis of a second or third exact replication. And my aim is to actually record the full 100 hours or so, including all the parameters, temperatures, current profiles, and 4K 60 frames per second video for 100 hours. It will come in at about 10 terabytes. And for those people that are willing to pay for a drive to be supplied with that 10 terabytes of data, that might give us a whole host of key information that will lead us to understand better how to deliver Zeus down the bottom here. And we'll come on to that in a little while. In the case of WindHex, it's kind of at the very bottom end of this process. I think that the disruption beam that comes out of these structures, which is partially responsible for some of the Hutchison effect things and what we see in the Vega Valley, is what's going on in the water spouts that we see. Lifting water vapor up and disassociating or breaking the weak polar bonds between the water molecules and turning it into water gas. And I think this is actually impartially going on when a ball lightning goes into water, or even in HHO systems that use cavitation. There's more interesting things that are producing more effective production of water gas than would be occurring just by pure electrolysis alone. And the wind hex is leveraging several principles here, and I will talk about some aspects which are going on in the wind hex, which may also be going on and likely going on in the Malcolm Bendel thunderstorm generator. And the idea is, and Tony Gibboni is leading the charge on this. He's done a presentation to some interested parties, again in Holland. And, you know, there needs to be a plan come up with for a research cycle. And the idea is to try and get to a minimum viable product in that research and have that out to the crowd. So here, to produce a valid and well-documented replication of the Vega Valley so that third parties can do that, to reverse engineer and create the wind hex such that other parties can reliably create those kind of devices in a minimum viable product. Then pump here is actually to reverse engineer and deliver working Griggs type devices, clean rooming that based on the fact that those patents have both expired. And since Binzhen Huang is doing cavitation heating, and this is principally a cavitation heating device, the Kladoff heater in its basic form, the idea would be to ideally work with Binzhen Huang and his partners and get to a minimum viable product out of that, so that science can move from unreadable patents to practical deliverables in a wider space. And of course, we do know that this has the potential also, therefore, for doing remediation of nuclear waste and element synthesis, but that will be later down the line. The idea is to create a heater that people can work on. Okay, so SUC, I will detail this in a minute, but SUC is a name for what someone is calling a nuclear siphon. This actually has come out of the Russian Academy of Sciences, a professor there, and I will take you through the paper in a little while, based on the publication that Binzhen Huang et al. And myself published on the 2nd of January this year in Nature Scientific Reports. This potentially has absolutely profound implications for irrigation the world over. It's breaking a commonly held belief. I don't know whether it's real or not, but I have someone who joined me on Friday, and he doesn't know it yet, but he might be listening to this stream because he's living elsewhere. I may ask him to help me knock up a replication of one of these devices, and if it works, you know it's not going to be a fake. It's going to be real. Okay? Of course, we may not be able to make it work. Although I think it is the same process that leads to the extreme of what ball lightning can do, I think it's somewhere between the wind hex, or even less than the wind hex, or somewhere between the wind hex and the sort of cavitation processes that are going on in the Kladoff type device and the ultra kind of devices that are leading to this effect. And I will argue that with reference to things that I've said in the past, and I think we can make a fairly safe assumption it's working like that. And then Zeus here is something that I will talk about shortly. I've mentioned it before, but this is the name we're going to give to the project, and it's already well underway in terms of thinking and sort of practical team building. And so thank you for everyone that's involving themselves with that. But we are going beyond fire, and this will become clear why we are calling that. So is everyone being able to see the video playing in the background, which, by the way, is video that I took when I last visited Alan Goldwater down there in Monterey Bay. This was in the aquarium there. I'd only ever gone to visit him and basically go and work and then leave again. And so there was a little moment in time, and so I decided to go and have a look at this because there was an opportunity with his wife driving down the coast a bit, and I thought I'd go into the aquarium there. Yes, jellyfish. Yeah, sorry about the flash there, but it's a good test for the video. Okay, so the replication of Vega Valley has been done. The first replication, so congratulations, Henk Uren. This is the image of the wide base plate, and you can imagine this is the channel that's been cut by the coherent electron clusters in the ball lightning. And these are the micro ball lightning bleeding out. Okay, you can see they appear to be a very regular size. There seems to be some that kind of get to this boundary. There's another boundary here, and there's a kind of another boundary over here, and I don't know. Apparently this sample is on its way to me, and we do need about a day on the SEM, which costs $800. So if anyone's keen to be credited with validating the Vega Valley first replication, then it would be wonderful if people could help with that. I would like to do that before I give my presentation in Strasbourg at the ICMNS conference, the Bill Collis Memorial Conference there in France on the 4th of September. So I will be leaving on the 1st, and so I will need to do the analysis before then. So if anyone wishes to support the analysis of this particular sample, replication 1 of the Vega Valley, that would be fantastic. We probably need to run, in Henk's estimation, a Vega Valley experiment for probably 10 times as long as this one ran for, in order to get the large side channels forming. Okay? But what this is moving towards is a situation where anyone in the world will have a prescription for how to create Vega Valleys and be able to study. And I hope on the end of these trails and areas around here, we might see some iron-rich crenellated spheres and our various other structures that we have witnessed on the original Vega Valley that led to so much understanding about the structure. Okay, so the next one up is our nuclear siphon. So I'm going to switch out to a PDF. And if you just bear with me, I will go and find that and we will talk through this. So we got 141 viewers out there. It's not far off. It's getting close to one of our peak viewers. So if you know anyone that might be interested in learning about a nuclear siphon, then go and tell them now. Okay, so let me see if I can dig out this PDF, if I can find it. Talk amongst yourselves. Okay. Where are we? Did I save it anywhere? I got a bit waylaid earlier today, so as usual, I'm a little bit behind on where I wanted to be, but that's okay. I thank you for your patience. All right. Ah, la la la. Maybe I put it in there. No. Maybe I never actually downloaded it. That might be the problem. Okay. All right. I don't know. So, give me a second. I'm going to find this from its original email that I got. Now, when you put something out in the world, you don't know what it might inspire or what it might inform on, what it might explain or otherwise, or what it might encourage someone to research. However, I can tell you it's quite satisfying when inspiration does lead to something that is very profound, and I think this is one of those things. So this is done. It's called Nuclear Siphon with a Siphon, so it might be the right way to spell it. I might have spelt it wrong. It won't be the first time I've got something wrong. It's definitely not going to be the last. Okay, so I am imperfect. Okay, so I have it here. Right, this is done by, if I can get my face out of the way, Vladimir Pavlovich Pavlovok Torchikin. And he is a professor at the Russian Academy of Sciences. And he has 263 publications, and that's publications, not pre-releases like this one, and 1,547 citations. And this paper is the first citation of the paper that I did with Binchuan Huang, which actually I think it really reached in June something like the top 1.3% of papers in the world. It's still for interest for something of its age in the top 2%, but it's doing relatively well, and I hope that they permit myself and Binchuan Huang to make the small corrections that are necessary for the typos and a couple of other things in there. Oh, thank you, Mark Dam. That's absolutely fantastic. That's a good chunk of the money that's needed to do that replication analysis. So thank you very, very much. Big thumbs up for that. Really happy with that. Okay, so this is, and you're going to this is it's a little bit hilarious in the fact that I have no idea these things have been going on, but over the last several years, these weird kind of siphons have appeared. It's saying here, he's calling it a nuclear siphon, and you'll understand why in a minute. The nuclear siphon lifts water from a lower level to a higher one while expending energy, which is extracted from the nuclei. For this reason, and I do agree that it may be extracted from the nuclei, whether it's his understanding, which could be how it's occurring, or it might be the modified understanding, taking the hidden energy out of the matter that I would refer to, but as a potential other option. For this reason, the siphon is called nuclear. The existence of such siphons in nature is based on thousands of videos demonstrating the upward movement of water using passive siphon-like devices. The assumption that the source of energy is nuclear energy was confirmed in 2024 after the publication of an article by researchers from Taiwan in an authoritative international journal. The article reports that when studying water after cavitation using mass spectral analysis, the presence of neon-22 was detected. That is, water cavitation is accompanied by nuclear reactions with the release of excess energy. 100%. Thank you very much, Black Tie, for the £20. That's very, very helpful. I do agree that there are nuclear reactions in the Binchuan Huang reactor. I think that is conclusively shown by the flux capacitor presentation that I gave, where I had analyzed his DHX-2 reactor and also the other reactor. So he's replicated his work. It's already replicated, and it's showing that it does the same sacred geometry, wheel within wheel within wheel process to both capture matter and transmute it. And the reactions would lead to a net energy gain. So certainly what we showed in the original paper point to that in that direction, but since the evidence has become much, much stronger and supported obviously by people Leclerc and Kladoff and so forth. Okay. So, since the nature of the excess energy has become known, it became possible to analyze the phenomena in siphons responsible for the upward flow of water. It was shown that a decrease in water pressure in a siphon at maximum height leads to the formation of cavitation bubbles and the appearance of excess energy as a result of nuclear reactions in such bubbles. Based on the presented experimental data, it is shown that if at the initial moment water is forced to move upwards in a nuclear siphon at a certain speed, then such a siphon can ensure the rise of water upward indefinitely due to the nuclear energy extracted by air bubbles in the region located near the maximum height of the siphon. Thank you very much, TP Sven. That's very, very generous. That really will help. And all you guys are going to get credited for, let's see if it proves itself. But hopefully when we do that analysis, we will see the replication of the Vega Valley. I think that will be a real moment. Okay, so in recent years, the internet has been filled with thousands of videos demonstrating how, in one way or another, water is supplied from a reservoir through pipes to a certain height without using visible energy sources. In this case, the law of conservation of energy is clearly violated, since the potential energy of the Earth's gravitational field increases. Unfortunately, the scientific community does not pay attention to these videos, believing that they are fakes. In many cases, this is true. However, there are many videos that require explanation. Below such an attempt is made for several videos, keeping in mind that in 2024, researchers from Taiwan published an article in an authoritative journal which presents the results of studies of water cavitation phenomena, from which it follows that water cavitation is accompanied by nuclear reactions resulting in the emergence of new elements, in particular 22 neon. As a result of the research in recent years, it has been established that the term cavitation bubble, when taken literally as the adjective cavitation in the cases under consideration, can lead to a misunderstanding of the conditions of its origin and the physical properties of the bubble responsible for the occurrence of nuclear reactions. Although this term is also used in the analysis of the properties of bubbles that arise during acoustic cavitation, however, the study of the phenomena of single bubble sonoluminescence has shown that a cavitation bubble is not a void, but a complex formation consisting of heated gas and the light emitted by it. The light is circulating along the surface of the bubble. Okay, so this is their theory. So obviously they have an understanding of how a cavitation bubble is working, at least in some aspects. And so they feel that this is a support for that. But if you just put it an aside to say that somehow there is some energy. Thank you, Bo Sinclair. Very, very kind of you. We're really pumping up the chance of getting this done in a short order. Thank you very much. So this is, I agree that energy is being extracted from matter in the process that is leading to what he's calling a nuclear siphon, this upward projection of water. But I don't necessarily think that the cavitation is extreme enough in this instance to result in the nuclear level energy. I think it might be the extraction of chi or charge clusters or the hidden energy within matter by the toroidal moment. But we'll talk about this later. So the release of gas bubbles from water can be observed when uncorking a bottle of carbonated water. Okay, so there's some natural thing here. It turned out that such bubbles belong to the world of circulating light, which also includes natural ball lightning. Okay, so circulating light is one way of describing the toroidal moment electromagnetic structure. Okay, so if you have an electromagnetic wave circulating round, then that would lead to, the same kind of thing. So we're in the sort of same ballpark here. It has been shown that circulating light in the shell of ball lightning creates unique physical conditions in the thin spherical shells of compressed air where it circulates. The air is compressed to such an extent that its density is comparable to the density of water, and the gas molecules are packed so tightly that there are no fluctuations in the air density responsible for the molecular-like scattering and for the lifetime of the light in ball lightning, which is 3 orders of magnitude longer than the lifetime of sunlight in the Earth's atmosphere. It can be expected that such conditions are favorable for the occurrence of energy exchange between neighboring tightly compressed atoms. Such exchange can be accompanied by nuclear reactions with the release of nuclear energy in thermal form. Okay. Since the nature of the excess energy has become known, it has become possible to analyze the phenomena accompanying the appearance of excess energy, in particular, phenomena in devices that provide a flow of water upward. It has been established that conditions are created for reducing water pressure, under which the appearance of cavitation bubbles and excess energy is possible. Such a reduction in water pressure always takes place without additional efforts in various modifications of siphons. Okay. Not only is this interesting from the point of view that it's citing the paper and it relies on that as a basis for explaining these things that appear to be able to be easily to replicate, I had literally just finished installing the water system for one Jordan Collins to come over and help work on the Matsumoto archive, and he arrived on Friday. And I was just shocked because every single skill that you require to create one of these nuclear siphons, so-called, and the actual specific non-return valves that are necessary as part of them, I had been installing in the previous 2 weeks. Call it serendipity, call it coincidence, whatever. But when I look at these things, I completely understand it, and it's not hard to understand. I think you're going to understand it as well. Okay. So I'm just going to skip forward. He goes known properties of siphons, and he says that basically you get here and you have a pressure differential, of course, and then it goes from the top to the bottom. The B here is using a nuclear siphon where somehow the water goes from a lower level up to a higher level. Okay? Right. So it explains here, and you can go and read this paper. I will give the links in the blog afterwards. You might be able to find it on ResearchGate if you just type in the word nuclear siphon or the phrase nuclear siphon. Very well explained, all of these diagrams going on here. So if we take the description of B, everyone hopefully should know how a normal siphon works. However, numerous videos on the internet show a surprising situation in which water flows from a low level to an upper level using passive devices of various designs, including an ordinary pipe in which the liquid flow from the lower level to the upper level was initially provided as shown in figure 1b. It is known that this cannot be since it violates the law of conservation of energy. Potential energy increases when the water rises up without visible sources of energy responsible for such an increase. However, there are invisible sources of energy in the form of nuclear energy. The siphon is called nuclear because it extracts energy to raise water from nuclei. Several questions immediately arise. How does it do this? Nuclear energy is extracted in the form of heat. How does the siphon convert this energy into mechanical energy? How does the mechanical energy help raise the water upwards? It would seem that there is no reasonable answer to any of these questions. Nature has posed another riddle. It turns out the solution to which is simpler than it seems at first glance. Below is an attempt to answer these questions. Right. Let's start with the simplest example, where water flows out of a vessel through a tube of height h, as shown in figure 2. Okay. I'm going to have to zoom this down a bit. But I might just abbreviate this. There's only a few spelling errors in this. It's excellently written. It's very easy to follow. Okay, I'm going to be able to see everything? I don't know. Maybe I can put up two pages at a time. 2-page view. There we go. Oh, it's got the wrong pages viewing. That's not very helpful, is it? Oh, dear. Okay, let's start with the simplest siphon, where the water flows out of the vessel through a tube of height h. That's h. As shown in figure 2, the outlet diameters for the cases are the same without taking into account losses. Regardless of the outlet diameters, water in all cases flows out with the same speed, v, which is equal to 2gh, where g is the acceleration of gravity. Okay, so far nothing new has been given regarding to the properties of a siphon. New information arises when discussing the problem of how to make a water siphon flow in the opposite direction. Anyway, he goes into the Venturi here, and he talks about the forces in the Venturi, and of course we know that the Venturi is in the heating system that produces solitons from two rarefaction impacts, rarefaction pulses, prior to going into the Venturi. That produces a soliton, a nascent soliton, as it comes through here. That expands into a cavitation bubble in the center of the stream. And he is explaining here how the forces lead to the cavitation energy release, producing a net force forward rather than backward because of the restriction here. And it's even more extreme in the nuclear siphons. He says a same kind of thing as you see in the Venturi, where the water is forced to go through here fast and then it slows down, causing a drop in pressure and the formation of the bubbles. I'm referring to the Popotov patterns. The Popotov patterns are a certified by lab, a heat generating cavitation driven system, which I talked about in my ultra experiment a few years back in Azizi. And it produces the cavitation in the stream. That's why it's very good at not damaging the actual surrounding area. He's saying that in a simply joined pipe like this, you again have a point where you get a differential forces going on, so you get a net forward pulse. But typically in these devices, and he shows video links to a whole number of these devices, okay? And essentially, it's very well described. You fill up this container here with water, and it pulls down on this chamber as the water is draining out of it until this much thinner tube, the drop in pressure in here is high enough, the negative pressure in here, the vacuum that's produced by the water coming out under gravity through this much larger bore here, okay? So you have a much larger bore here, water in this cavity comes out, goes into this bore. The thin tube here allows for the water to be sucked up here until you get an equilibrium between the water coming out here and going in here, and the net difference is made by the pressure drop, the Venturi effect, causing cavitation bubbles that push back on a one-way valve at the bottom. So when the bubble occurs, the heat is produced and it pushes back against the whole column of the water and pushes some water forward. So that is where the energy is generated and causes the net movement forward. This is a very, very serious player from the Russian Academy of Sciences who's done a very serious paper analyzing these devices. Okay, so the compressor diagram is shown in figure 6. Here, a long tube is inserted into the water. So this is the long tube here. 1 in the well. So this is the water in the well, which ends with a check valve 3. This is the check valve. This is something that I've been using quite a lot of in setting up the water system in the place where I set up the water system. And that lets the water flow upwards. So the check valve, it's a non-return valve, so the water can come in and not go out. Okay. Before connecting to tube 2 to tube 4 up here, tube 2 is filled with water in the standard way by shaking the tube 2 in the water in the well. So basically you have this separated here and you push down rapidly and lift up, push down rapidly and lift up, and it pumps water effectively. It's like a hand pump on a tube until it's reached the top level. So you pre-prime the pump effectively by filling the water column here. Okay. Container 5, this one here, the big blue one I showed you above, in the form of an ordinary transparent bottle made of plastic, is filled with water through funnel 6 here, and then there's another valve here to shut that off, and open valve 7 with valve 8 closed, the outflow here. Okay. After bottle 5 is completely filled, valve 7 closes. I don't know if you can see both of these on the page. And water begins to pour out. The air pressure in the bottle between the water level in the bottle and the neck decreases. The same pressure is created in tubes 2, 4, and 10. So 2, 4, and 10. So the pressure drop occurs in here. This leads to a rise in the water level in tube 2. So it starts to pull this up. So remember, we've already pre-primed it up to this level. And this causes a pressure drop here, which forces the water over the top, because you've got atmospheric air pressure pushing down on here. Okay. This leads to a rise in the water level in tube 2. As the water flows out, the vacuum increases and the water level in tube 2 rises. The situation occurs when the bottle begins to deform due to external atmospheric pressure. Since the air pressure inside the bottle is less than the atmospheric pressure by the value of the water column in the bottle, water continues to pour out and the water in level in tube 2 continues to rise. There comes a moment when air begins to penetrate in the bottle through open valve 8. So open valve 8, there's some air that comes through because of the air pressure differential. And so you get a mixed fluid gas situation in there. This is noticeable by the bubbles that come out into the water 5 and rise up. A further operation of the device can be explained as follows. When the pressure in the tube 9 decreases, so pressure in tube 9 here decreases, conditions favorable for the formation of air bubbles arise at the outlet of the water from the bottle. These bubbles getting into the expanding part of tube 9 are compressed and nuclear reaction occurs in them, which leads to an increase in the speed of the outflowing water. So you get a speed increase coming out here, or where is it in the other part of the system. You can notice the moment when the stream of water appears from the vertical tube 10. Anyway, to cut a long story short, he goes through several of these videos, the ones that are more plausible. And you can see here, in this case, they've got a big vessel here, but they've also got these vacuum bottles on here. This is another analysis of a variant on the one above. And so he goes through various variations. In this one, which is quite nice, this one here, they have a large tank here going into a well through a small bore tube here, okay, and a fat outlet. And they actually put a membrane on the top, which is see-through, a polymer membrane, and you can see it very, very substantially suck down, okay? So it's creating the same vacuum effect, but this is quite simple by comparison. And this is, you know, this is another very simple one, but like, I would encourage you to go and have a look at this. This for me is one of my favorite ones because I think this is the one we might attempt to replicate. It's really rather simple, and this guy has done a wide variety of these same things. This is different in that he forces the vacuum in this tube to create the initial effect, and it's not so plausible. But like I say, there's a wide variety of these things. You can clearly see the pipe here, and you know, one might argue there's some sort of pump in here and so forth, but you know, it's not hard to build these things. I know all the skills to do it, having just done it the last 2 weeks, so I think we might attempt this with Jordan just for shits and giggles. Okay, so I'm going to show this video here because you get to see him build it. Okay, and you know, there's one thing about having electricity, and there's one thing about having heat when it's cold and cold when it's hot, and those kind of things. Those are transformative. But actually, you know, before you even can eat, you've got to be well watered. And this technology, if realizable, and can raise water up to a certain amount above the base level, then if you were to have a whole sequence of these things, then you could cascade them up and raise water to a higher reservoir level, and then use the water flowing back to the lower reservoir level like a pumped storage system to generate electricity. And by scaling the whole thing appropriately, you could basically end up with free electricity just using a standard generator. So this is a little bit comical, and I would probably have been skeptical if it hasn't been so beautifully described by this particular author. And he gives loads of other different links here. But I'm just going to play this video up here because I think it's one of the nicer ones. Let's see if we can get this to do its job here. Are we going to get anything here? Let's come up somewhere. I don't know where it's come up. No. Copy link location. We'll do this manually. Let the adverts clear. Okay, so here you can see the device. It's going to let me show it. So, just before I move forward, the check valve is on the end here. This is the narrow feeder pipe, okay? This comes out effectively into a venturi, okay? So you've got expanding out here, and then this falls down. This, again, is into a compressed into one standard size of pipe, and then it's got an expanded area here and a drop down. And these parts of the pipe are really just for support, and you'll see the thing being constructed. So he's using this mechanism to preload the system. And the point is this is so simple to build, it's either going to work or it's not. These are standard PVC. You can get some PVC adhesive. Like I say, if I was watching this video, I'd think, what's the scam here? And, you know, still I feel that there might be a scam. But knowing what is described by him and the serious analysis that he does, and knowing that ball lightning structures are being formed in the cavitation system, and knowing that there are several levels in which they operate. One is maybe to create disassociation of water. Well, not disassociation. Well, it does do that at an extremer level. But at the base level, it's causing water gas to be formed by pulling extra chi through, or by disrupting the weak polar bonds between water molecules. So you don't need nuclear level energy. You just need the production of water gas above the check valve, which will then push the water through over the hill and into up to a higher level. Okay. And so as he's assembling this, I will say that what I believe might be going on is that PVC can get charged, okay? And there will be friction with the water. Water going up that narrow tube will create a toroidal vortex. In fact, it will be like a Kármán vortex street, but in toroids that are traveling up that tube. Because it's a polar molecule, it's naturally charge separated, and you've got the end molecules of PVC are such that they will likely encourage the easy water or inverse easy water. It doesn't matter, actually. But charge separation within the polar charges of the water, that produces your toroidal vortex in the long, thin column. And what that will do, in my view, is for a proportion of that water, it may cause it to produce water gas. Okay? May cause it to produce water gas. And the water gas then tries to push back against the check valve and closes it. And the only way it can expand then is to push water uphill. Because water gas, as we know, is 1,617 times larger than water. So you only need to convert a minute amount of this water into water gas, and you will be able, and I'm going to skip on here because I don't want to play the whole video, but he's making a check valve here from a piece of rubber. That's his PVC glue here. So essentially this is, other than a hammer and PVC glue, a saw, and the stock PVC piping, that's all you're needing. So yeah, much more narrow tube. So as the water is forced up here, it will start to produce vortexes, okay? And as it comes over the top, the vortexes will still be produced in here. They will have a toroidal moment. They will have a back disruption beam. The back disruption beam and even the forward head of the torus will cause, in my view, some water gas to be synthesized. And you really only need a very small amount of water gas to be synthesized to push the water up against the check valve at the bottom. And that will cause water to come over. The water to come over will then pull a bit more water up. And the point is like, I almost don't care whether this is fake, because it's so simple to try and replicate if what you're seeing is, you know, what it is. There you go. It's not just in Thailand. This one is, I think this is Thailand. Yes, I think this guy is Thai, and he does a whole range of them. But there's lots of other people doing this. Okay? So he's showing like different ways to get it restarted once he's shut it off. So, you know, unless there's water flow, I don't think you're going to get this either toroidal moment or pressure-related cavitation energy. The toroidal moment, like I say, weakens, in my view, the molecular bonds between water, causing it a proportion of it to turn to water gas. I think this is going on in the water spout from the 1969 NOAA photo. I think that is also what's going on in some HHO systems, or particularly in the vibration system of Dr. Roy Shinamaza. I think it's a component of what's going on. And in this case, the water gas is able to lead to this very phenomenal and useful practical application of the toroidal moment. That's it. So I think this might cost about $40 in equipment from scratch, not having everything. I've got the hammer. I've got some of the PVC glue. I need some more. And the PVC piping, maybe less than that. And I think it's worth having a go. I think it's just worth having a go. It does look like an avalanche of bullshit to me. Yes, Hales, right? It does. But, you know, that's how many people felt for most of history about nuclear transmutation going on in cavitation. Really, the Russian scientific community mocked Kladov until after he died, when they found out he was right by using the now useless hydrowave biological and chemical destruction technology, because they ran out of weapons to destroy. So they thought, well, Kladov said cavitation can do this. Ours is a very good cavitator. Let's see if it can do it. And they remediated a nuclear isotope. I think strontium-90. Kladov had done cesium-137. So, even for people that knew this guy, for most of his research, they ignored him. So, and everyone ignored Griggs. So, there we go. All right. It's so simple, it would be rude not to try. And, just because you know already it doesn't work is not a reason to not try when it's that simple. Honestly. Anyway, so that is... Mr. Hales, I haven't replicated this already, but he's made a very good argument, and the same argument for nuclear energy, which we know cavitation can do, because we've got several systems, and when we verify that the Vega Valley replication 1 is producing the signatures of ball lightning, we'll know that is doing it. And we've replicated it in ultra experiments. We know Benjamin Huang has sequentially replicated the process. So we know that it can do cavitation that leads to transmutation. Okay? And it's the same process that's occurring in ball lightning. We know for certain. Okay? We do. There's a lot of people out there that would call this a whole load of, male cow excrement. But we know for certain. Okay? The thing is that in this instance, I don't believe, like in the wind hex, you need to get to the nuclear level of energy. You're just using the charge separation in the toroidal multi-axis shear that leads to the disruption zone, which is able to, and along with the kind of like Ukon of Asara, those areas are able to manipulate matter in non-thermal ways to change their phases. So in the case of metal, it turns it to like a jelly, like we saw in John Hutchison's system, or causes different dissimilar materials to interfere with each other. And in the case of a water spout, or in HHO generation, it's converting it to water gas. And the water gas is actually, to a degree, persistent. Okay, you need to kind of like break the over-energized nature of the water so that it can return to ordinary water. And you can see these kind of things going on in the videos that we shared of the testing of Amaza's gas in 2019. Sometimes magic is real and it's just science. So it's rude not to. for us not to do that. Okay, so that is what I'm talking about with the nuclear siphon, as it were. Now, another point to add here is for those that might be considering this male cow excrement, I described what I believed was going on here in this singing bowl, where normal hydrodynamics absolutely cannot explain what happens when these water droplets leap out of the surface of the water. Okay? Leap out of the surface of the water. They launch themselves apparently against gravity. However, you could imagine, and I showed that I suspected this was because a toroidal flow is being caused at interference waves of standing waves, interference points of standing waves. Okay, and it's completely logical with what's going on in a singing bowl and what we see in other processes, that you get the toroidal structure forming and it launches itself in the air, and potentially that is because maybe it's converted part of the water into water gas and it literally propels itself out of the air, or it's just coming through the water at such velocity that it keeps going and breaks the surface tension of the water. So I think what we observed here in these experiments, which I replicated in a number of commercially available singing bowls, actually show part of the same process that is able to do what is being called a nuclear siphon, but I believe you don't need to go to the level of the nuclear siphon. Okay, so frankly, the application for this is phenomenal. And, you know, for the Russian Academy of Sciences, a senior professor there, a well-published and extremely well-cited professor, to take our work with that level of seriousness, even just on the initial publication level, before I was able to publish the analysis of the materials in flux capacitor. That is, it's frankly a deep honor. And for it to explain a technology like this, or be on the periphery of explaining a technology like this, which potentially, if you had 1,000 of these along a riverbed and they raised the water by a meter, and then you had 500 that raised it another meter, and then you had 250 that raised it another meter, if you get it up to 10 meters or whatever, there's a real potential with certain types of generator to generate on demand quite a lot of electricity, or to use the same process to irrigate water without electricity, which kind of like you're getting free electricity by not having to use electricity, to irrigate plants or move water levels up and down. So yes, Alex del Castillo, yes, a water hammer can do the same thing. But the point about this is that a water hammer uses quite a lot of water to move the water and raise it up to a higher level. And a water hammer will be producing cavitation. And the question is the water hammer working the same way? So when I was describing this the other day to someone, I said what I would like to do is to change the long, thin downpipe from PVC to, say, metal, or to change it to a different type of plastic, or to change it to glass, or to change it to a hydrophobic ceramic or a hydrophilic ceramic, and see if the same process occurs, or whether it's better or worse. So we have exactly the same internal diameter, but we change the material to different materials and see if, of course, assuming it works anyway, try different things. Okay. So we might do that in the next 2 weeks if someone else doesn't get there first, and you'll have the link to go and have a look at, and you just see whether you think it works. But it doesn't actually matter what your opinion is if it works, right? It doesn't even matter that you know how it works, just that it works, because it will have a profound implication to millions of people around the world. Millions of people around the world. Okay, all right. So I don't know whether you saw what I was showing you there. I was actually trying to show you this, the water bowl with the jumping water. These water droplets, you know, up here, like it's going way, way, way high. So I think the same process that's occurring in this singing bowl, and it's creating a toroidal structure. And I suggested it was, and then Russian work became presented to me where that's exactly what they were saying. And I think it's because the polar nature of the water leads to a toroidal moment. The toroidal moment leads to either a lowering of mass locally, allowing it to travel further and faster, a lowering of the surface tension because that's based on electron properties and the polar bonds, or potentially there is some water gas forming, and that goes from a unit volume of 1 to 1,617 unit volumes, and it blasts these water droplets up into the air. Okay. Alrighty. Right, so let's just see where we are. We have done Vega Valley replications. The initial one is done. Thank you to those that have contributed. We might be in a position to confirm whether ball lightning signatures and the fractal toroidal geometry signatures are present on the overall structure. The wind hex is well underway. We will be sharing materials from the presentation that was given by Tony Yaboni recently in Holland, in the Netherlands. I will be reaching out to Binchuan Huang to see if he would like to collaborate with the project. He has a very, very wealthy sponsor, and the potential for this system with correct shielding to make a massive difference to energy, thermal heat for district heating and stuff. It just cannot be ignored. This has to be explored. And, you know, we've already gone some way to understanding and demonstrating that what he observed with the elements that he put in, there's a logical conclusion why the radiation he saw when he was recirculating the fluid. You know, I've worked through that. So, you know, this is highly plausible. The SUC project, nuclear siphon, you know, this could be over in a day, you know, in terms of if it replicates. You know, I might not be doing it right, so it might not replicate in a day, but it could be over in a day. And Zeus, Beyond Far, is what I want to touch on next. And what is that? Well, that is this. The hot tube with the suggested copper insert producing a ball lightning, and you will see the video of the ball sitting on the end here, but the iPhone is changing its aperture and exposure such that it's able to look through the ball to see the torus here, which is stable for seconds at a time before it discharges with the tornado that's coming down. And I believe the tornado is touching and causing the spot to move around on the outside. I will go into detail in another presentation what the basic principles are between the three modes in which we expect to be able to collect direct electricity generation from this process. But in brief, it will be a combination of Tesla's electrical particles of matter device, the patent of Kenneth Radford Shoulders, the patent and workings of Joseph Papp, and the patent of Solin in 2001, his coherent quantum coherent nuclear reactor direct electricity generation device that was rejected by the US Patent Office because they didn't believe that the metal had the properties he was saying it could achieve, and they didn't believe that cold fusion was real, or fusion in this sense could be made real, and so they just rejected it because science told them it had to be rejected. But we all know the agenda behind that. So essentially, we know that this is a ball lightning because it produces the same structures that were observed by Winston Bostick, trying to create what a fusion bomb does and making that into a domestic fusion device, and the impact marks that these things produce when they hit the fused quartz are the same as those observed by Winston Bostick in the nationally funded Department of Energy research carried out between 1948 and 1980. Okay, so we are using the power of ball lightning, and here we know that the first stable structure, and we know that this is stable and it's kind of square on here, and we know we've had square impacts, is the swastik, and here's the Sanskrit here, and this is a modified slide from my presentation in North Carolina, and what you can see in the background here are medieval silver earrings, which are a sphere which is surrounded by subspheres, okay, and the subspheres have the swastika, or rather the symbol of God-controlled power, the kind of Maltese cross type structure emblazoned upon them. And if you know that that is this center part, you know that the outer sphere is here on the non-radiating boundary. So each of these will be interacting with each other. And this is a beautiful example of potentially how an artist can connect through their intuition and their creativity to potentially how the structure of the universe is working without actually knowing. That is my belief here, and I'll read this again. The swastika and svastika symbolizes lightning bolts, ball lightning, representing the thunder god and king of the gods, such as Indra in Vedic Hinduism, Zeus in the ancient Greek religion, Jupiter in the ancient Roman religion, and Thor in the ancient Germanic religion. Okay, so we've talked about Thor Project. That's my name for the Malcolm Bendel thunderstorm generator device. We are calling this Zeus. Why? So, Zeus, as we are told, was the king of kings, and we are reclaiming ball lightning for humanity. This was predicted in the Sanskrit texts at the end of the period of usury, when the deceivers are defeated by the god of ball lightning. Well, I'm no god. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that the best weapon, or the best tool, the thunderbolt, which is ball lightning, available to Zeus, we are going to be reclaiming that, because I believe humanity in all its manifestations has used it in the past. So a little brief overview of Prometheus. Prometheus was a Titan, and he was initially allied with Zeus during the Titanomachy. He helped him to overthrow Kronos. However, their relationship soured when Prometheus tricked Zeus into accepting bones and fat as sacrifices, keeping the best meat for humans. Angered, Zeus hid fire from humanity. Defying Zeus, Prometheus stole fire from Mount Olympus and returned it to mankind, empowering them with the knowledge and survival skills. In retaliation, Zeus punished Prometheus by chaining him to a rock where an eagle would eat his liver daily, which would regenerate each night. Okay, so Zeus deliberately hid. So basically, Prometheus was a Titan, and he worked with Zeus, the king of kings, and Prometheus supposedly, according to some versions of Greek mythology, fashioned the first humans out of clay and breathed life into them. Fashioned the first humans out of clay and breathed lives into them. Well, this is just a story, but I do believe that there are people that hide technology from humanity, right? I do believe that they exist, and I know that they deliberately do it. And I have said that when this man, Takaaki Matsumoto, started publishing in this book, the original book, or rather in the papers that are included in that original book, that in 1993-4, that it was ball lightning that was the basis for electronuclear collapse and electronuclear regeneration. They changed the rules in the American Nuclear Society's Fusion Technology Journal to prevent him from being able to publish his work. I do know that a major scientist from Los Alamos National Laboratory asked the curator of LenarCanner.org to remove the works of Kenneth Radford Shoulders when he was starting to talk about ball lightning being the cause of this technology in the period around about 2003. I literally have the emails from Kenneth Radford Shoulders talking to another researcher whose work at the time, Mitchell Schwartz, was put on an embargo at the patent office before they released it to him about 10-15 years later. But their work was taken off the archive, and I never heard of it talked either of those people at any of the cold fusion conferences until I independently found out about it and started talking about it. I believe it was deliberately hidden. It was hidden from humanity. And this is beyond fire. This is beyond fire technology that was hidden from humanity. And the Sanskrit text says that the ball lightning will come back. The god of ball lightning will come back and free humanity from usury and from the deceiving forces. Okay? The deceiving forces have had their time. You are on the vanguard. Okay? So all of the references are down the bottom, which you can look at. Now, like I say, I will talk about more about this moving forward. But Project Zeus is direct matter to electricity. Right, now, learning from the crowd. Now, you may know that I produced 2D images and ultimately 3D images of what I believe is the structure that drives this entire, in fact, basically everything, right? Basically everything. And I didn't finish these slides. I'm just going to have to show you roughly what I want to talk about. But this 3D structure came from many, many independent pieces of research. But the initial 2D structure came from this lion track and its contemporary and its friends in the lion paw tracks. This is a lion individual paw track. In the, I think I imaged this in 2017, and September the 30th, 2017. And it has the black sphere in the center, the wings, and the beam coming down with the torsion in the copper oxide. Okay. And later on in 2019, we saw this structure with this very tight sphere. And we saw in various systems, like in 2017, also hydrodynamic systems, that there was a disruption zone in this sphere. And that led to this kind of diagram that I shared. And this is really when Tony Gibboni came on the scene, and he took my diagram and resketched it himself. And he decided to look for the golden ratios. Okay? And what he came up with is that the distance between the top of the apple, which we know from the analysis of Binzhen Huang's DHX2 and other reactors, is a point of event horizon at some levels of intensity of the fractal toroidal moment. The actual apple and counter apple, the yin and the yang, were apples themselves, and they are able to tear matter apart on this boundary, this event horizon. Okay, the distance between there and the distance between the center of the yin and the yang, or the center, you might like to say, of the magnetic core loop here, or the toroidal moment loop as it would be, and the disruption zone here, precisely gathered from the data that you see here, this circle here, and other data. You know, I didn't know anything of scales or golden ratios. I'm just saying this is where it's at, and this is where it's at on this system, and this is where it's at on that system. There's got to be a reason for this, but that's where I'm saying it's at. So he's drawing it there. That ratio to that ratio is 1.618. Okay, so this is why we have this on here. Okay, this ratio between B, which is the disruption zone, and the bottom of the apple, and A is also 1.618. Okay, and so as I have detailed, the disruption zone is where the center of the disruption beam through the center of the toroidal moment structure is where that reaches out to the fractal tor on the n level above. That circle is at the exact point of the interaction of this fractal tor level on a D4D fractal structure and when it reaches out to this point. Okay? This cannot be coincidence. It just is. You don't need any maths to do this. You just need to be able to draw. Okay? So, there are other ratios in here that are important, but this was the first person. I just want to give him credit for when he sent that to me. So I had no idea that there were golden ratios involved with this structure. I just did what nature was showing me. I wasn't starting from golden ratios that someone else did in their religion or in their architecture and saying, oh, aren't these all the same? Isn't it interesting? And like, you've got a golden ratio between here and 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 here, right? You know, man is like full of golden ratios. Why? Why is it like that? Why is the face in all these golden ratios? Ideally, why? Why is it like that? Well, maybe nature just works like this. Destruction, creation. Point of yin-yangs in the fractal structure. Okay, maybe that's the reason. Maybe there's a magnetohydrodynamic structure that causes nature to look like it does. Okay, so I just want to confirm and give credit to when that was sent to me by Tony Gibboni. It was published shortly. You can get those off the remoteview.icu. I will forward that link. Okay, so let me just confirm when that was. This is going to get very, very interesting in a minute. Okay. So the initial structure I assessed by January 2018 from September the 30th, 2017 analysis of late Neil Crichton gold. The fractal geometry was by 17th of February 2020. I published that analysis of John Hutchison's material. The N of Fe plus O crenellated microspheres became so clear during the analysis of Henk Urian's Vega Valley in September 2021, though I had seen them years earlier in 2016 in Nova plasma experiments. By 5th of May 2022, I'd been able to translate a paper that referred to former Soviet era energetics research that was passed to me after I observed the physical manifestation in Henk Urian's samples. And then, so basically, Tony Gibboni, he found the phi ratios in my drawings based off experiment, and that was made public and published on the 20th of November 2023. So thank you very much, Tony Gibboni, for looking at what I was imaging from nature. Okay. Then the second person to approach me independently of this, and he was the same person that sent me the video by Malcolm Bendel, showing the glowing things coming in and out of a thunderstorm generator, apparently in Thailand. And he wrote to me. He's a guy called Robert Hutchins out of Hawaii, and he's been, according to himself, he says, "I've been studying sacred geometry for 40 years. I was looking through your material and came upon your base geometry form. I immediately recognized it as one of my older directions of the Vesica Pisces as it relates to phi and the square roots of the course of the angle of the Great Pyramid. I am very curious to how you came about this geometry." Right, so I'm going to show you what he sent me. He sent me 2 images, and he wrote this to me on 10th of September 2023. Okay. So, as I said before, Tony Gibboni. Okay. All right. So, Tony Gibboni sent me one based off my geometry, but this one was sent. This was sent on the 10th of September 2023. So, let me just pull this up. Where is it? These were meant to be in slides, and I'm sorry they're not. Okay, so here it is. Okay. So that is his structure that he drew. You can see there are some reasonable similarities here. And the thing that struck me out of this whole thing was the fact that if you have this at 4 inches and you have a half radius 2 inches here, and the inner one is 1 inch, right? The reason I drew these 3 circles here is because I was seeing this in the data. So the middle circle here is in the center of that initial paw print. But in my original O-Day slides, I don't know whether I've showed this slide. I have a column capital from Somalia. And it has a vortex on one side at this position and an anti-vortex on the other side in a standard type of, or rather similar to a normal sort of a capital that you might imagine. And in the center, it had a Maltese cross. And I realized that what I was seeing was a structure that was D4D, which means the diameter of this had to be 4D across, and that the center portion had to be the same diameter as this bit. So what I did is I just took the center point here and found a radius that would allow me to put 4 circles in here, and then I deleted one and I manually centered the other one into the center, and that gave me my 3 circles. What I did not realize until yesterday, when I was looking at this particular slide in preparation for tonight, is that this inner circle here is 0.618. And what is that? Well, that is 1 over 1.618. That is the reciprocal. It's the of that. So that means this 1 inch is actually the golden ratio bigger than this. You understand the implications here? Not only do we have what Tony Gibboni had identified as golden ratios between the Apple areas of event horizon, you also, and the destruction zone, the distance between, the scale of that compared to that is 1.618 bigger than that. And this is the inverse of that. It's 0.618 of that. Okay? So it's not only in this level, it's even in these disruption areas, these spheres of influence. It's impossible that this is chance. It's just impossible. I didn't know that until, God, yesterday. whenever it was, day before yesterday or yesterday, whenever I was looking through these images. Okay? And there it was years ago, sitting on a hard drive, not announced by one Robert Hutchins. And he couldn't understand how I derived something that looked similar to one of his doodles from a long time ago. Okay? And the history's out there. How I got to this was just looking at what I saw under a microscope and what I saw on video. Hydrodynamics, magnetohydrodynamics, fractal toroidal structures. Okay? And he showed me an even older image that kind of like led him towards this. 40 years of research in the sacred geometry. And you can see here. Now, he has a circle, and inside that there's another circle, and above that there's another circle. This circle is 0.618 times that, or rather this one is 1.618 times this. And so if you draw circles progressively above each other, where the circle above is 0.618, you end up with a cone. You end up with a cone. All right. This is where it becomes really interesting. So thank you to Robert Hutchins out of Hawaii for sharing his thinking of the geometry from 40 years of study of sacred geometry. And then I was approached by a person by the name of Gabby Ensign yesterday or the day before, I can't recall. In fact, apparently they sent it to the project a couple of days before, but I hadn't got it because of the way that they tried to send it. Anyway, this is Gabby Ensign's image. Right? So, in this case, there's a couple of his construction points people might not have gathered. It's not drawn on here, but I've known it for a while. That the two big circles, which were 4 inches in the Robert Hutchins image, they're the ones that intersect to make the Visa Pisces. But you take the same radius, the 4 inch in the Robert Hutchins image, and you have that so that the outside radius is and the center to the radius is located on the golden ratio lines here. Okay, the owl shape, the symbol, the anthropomorphic or animal symbol of Delphi. Okay, so and if you draw basically a straight line from the center of the D4D triangle, Tor rather, and you draw that down, you basically get to a point down here. And if you draw a line across the bottom through the center point here, you get 2 points. And if you draw that up, that is essentially the Sothic triangle. Now, it's not quite the same. It's not quite the same. You see, so I got the Sothic triangle basic way to do it easily, that this is 4 lengths and this is 9 and this is 9 lengths. And this is supposedly the rough way to do it with a piece of string that the Egyptians used. But the ratio isn't quite the same as this. The T to U length here is 1.272, and the J to U length here, is 2.694, which is a slightly different ratio. But the ratio here, the actual angle here is very close. It's not far off. What I derived from experiment is 76.345 degrees. Okay? 76.345 degrees. How do you make this angle? Well, if you take any sphere and you divide the size of that, right, by the golden ratio. So we're calling the length L to I here. We're calling this sphere 1.618, and you go 1 divided by that, and you draw another sphere which is the division of the golden ratio above, so the distance is 0.618, and then you do the same again, so you get 0.236, and so on. You end up by producing a column of spheres. And if you draw around that column of spheres What do you essentially get, my friends? Well, you essentially get this three-dimensional cone. Okay? This three-dimensional cone. This cone, this disruption cone. Slightly different to this one, which I derived from the Sothic triangle in the Golden Path book of the basic ways to create the proportions of this triangle from that book. Okay? From when you're trying to make it with a piece of string. Okay? Just easier to do 4 units and 9 units, but it's not quite accurate. Okay? So I would argue that Robert Hutchins here is doing the same kind of thing when he's constructing his cone. He's kind of doing the same thing. So you've got a 1 unit here. If I show that and zoom into it, he's got a 1 unit circle here. And if you times that by the golden ratio 1.618 and you do a circle below it, you'll see that it makes this cone angle. Okay, and he's doing the 26.6 degrees here. Okay, so he's showing the angle there, but he's not showing the angle at the bottom, but you could probably work it out. So it's pretty, this is a doodle, but I think this needs to be slightly adjusted to be a phi collapse cone. Toby, Tobias, boom, yes. So not only do we have, and this is thank you to Gabby here for adding this detail in here. You have in this same structure derived by myself from physical experimentation and the generosity of the scientists around the world trying to understand their systems. You have a structure that was derived from that. An approximation, okay? But it's a ballpark, okay? That has golden ratio between the points of matter disassociation and construction and disruption. So like making and creating and transforming. And they're all golden ratios. And then from the work of Robert Hutchins, we have identified that the ratio between the outer side circle, the 1 unit here and this in here, is effectively 1 to 0.618, which inverse, that means the green circle here is 1.618 bigger than the inner circle here. And bear in mind, I only worked this out from observing experimentation and then noting that ancient columns in Somalia had this ionic column, vortex, anti-vortex, in this exact ratio, and it was part of my original Ode slides in early January 2018. And the center one had a Maltese cross in it. Okay, and then third from Gabby Ensign. Thank you to Gabby Ensign. The main contribution from her is this 76.345 degrees, and she sent this 7th of the 8th, 2024, so 7th of August, 2024. He drew this rather. Sorry, excuse me. If you have spheres and you stack them on top of each other and you shrink them by the golden ratio, you will end up with the cone. Now, Gabby Ensign pointed me to a book by Charlie Zeus called Pyramid Science Foundations, and it's called Phi Scaling. I think this is actually part of Charlie Zeus's work that's being sent forward to me by Gabby Ensign. I'll clarify that if there's any difference. But give me a second. I just want to bring this book up. It's available on Amazon. It was published after the core part of my work was published in 2020 or 22, I think. Let me just see when that was. And let me get that right. Okay, so here it is. I think, yeah. So, this is the book. It's called Exploring the Hidden Secrets of the Golden Ratio, 76.345. 76.345. And when I went to Amazon to search the name of this book that she was pointing me to, this image appeared. And I knew exactly what this image was because I actually visited Great Zimbabwe when I was 19 years old. I just felt I had to, right? And I've seen this column, so I knew exactly what I was looking at. I had no idea that it's 76.345, okay? And this is, if you take spheres and you shrink them by the golden ratio, you will end up producing a cone of this size, okay? So thank you very much. And this was, again, published, when was it? It says on here somewhere, but yeah, May the 11th, 2022. So there we go. And Gabby Ensign sent me some images, and if you just bear with me, I'm going to pull them out so that I can just show you them individually. So give me a second. And they're from some presentations that he has done. And so I will see if this will work. Okay, we'll have that one. So thanks again to Gabby Ensign here. Hope I'm saying your name right. You have to correct me if I'm not. Now, I haven't verified if these things are as they are being said, but I think some of these might be coming from the book that I referred to by Charlie Zeus called 76.345. But anyway, let's see. So in no particular order, Edley Scarlin's Coral Castle tripods. Apparently, they were that angle. What is this next one? Vortex Mechanics. Okay, John Keely's Free Energy Devices. Okay. Can't see it so close here, but these are Tower of Babel or something images. Not so clear there. Okay, so we got close-ups here. So this is Charlie Zeiss here, the book author there. So you have the Great Mosque of Samarra in Iraq. You have the Babylonist mural and Amazon headquarters, of course. The top of the Vishnu Shanti Temple in Delhi. This is the Mahabodhi Buddhist Temple, Bodh Gaya, India. There we go. And this is the Great Zimbabwe. What else? This is the Sardinian Nuraghe. This is another place where the giants were meant to have lived, in Sardinia. Okay. This is the Temple of Karnak and the Aztec calendar. Okay. This is Cleopatra's Needle in Paris, France, the actual top metal piece. This is the Russian pyramid. Again, phi ratio cone. Okay. We actually did a video on this from the Russian community at some point. Don't know what that one is, and maybe we've got any more. Okay, so that's so basically geometric similarities between Giza and Russian pyramids, height of Russian pyramid, and so on. These ratios, you can look at them later. They're there for your viewing pleasure. And there again, you've got the imploding and exploding vortices here. And there are the kind of ratios, which I think is, these are by, this is actually work by Charlie Zeus that I just showed you there. If I can get it up again. I think this is Charlie Zeus's work, okay? So you can see the angle is slightly off, 27.309. But I'm minded to believe that the Sothic triangle and these things, it's so close that given the fact that my work came from experimental data and correlation between them, and there's so much other actual golden ratios going on, then I think probably this is correct with the lining up of the center here, the lining up across there, building your triangle. And I'm saying that the double there for the non-radiating boundary is cut to this radius and cut to this radius. Okay, so the inner layer is there and it cuts through these bottom two circles. But they're going from effectively the center of the disruption zone, which I identified, and that gives your initial radius, which comes down to the bottom of here. And it's just magic. It's just magic. So there we go. This is what happens when people apply their brain to physical observation in a way that, you know, it wasn't a consideration for me because I was just deriving, you know, best I could what nature was showing. So thank you to Robert Hutchings, to the other people I was referring to here, Charlie Zeus, to where are we? Gabby Ensign, and to Tony Uboni. Okay, I think between them we've been able to refine this, and that brings me on to the Therify. And this is from a Polish installation of a Therify where you have 3 injection points of your plasma coming into, well, could we guess that this might be a phi ratio cone? Phi ratio cone, okay? And then the other end you might have a counter-rotating vortex phi ratio cone. Okay? Well, it is my pleasure to know that I will be standing alongside the maker of this at the Advanced Energy Systems Seminar in Brno in the Czech Republic, which will be occurring between the 6th and 10th of September 2024. And you are all welcome. We will be discussing, Paul Harris is the maker, inventor, the Therify, and I have an incredible story to share about my experience on a Therify in Northern California, which will blow your mind. But that's not for today. And he will be standing alongside me for this 4-day period in the Advanced Energy Systems in Brno, Czech Republic, to share our experiences and understanding. Witnesses will be able to participate in experiments, and you'll be able to take home your own samples. We will analyze samples with live macro photography and microscopy. You'll be able to see original materials from Takaki Matsumoto, his original microscopy plates and scanning electron microscopy photos. You'll be able to learn about standard forms of radiation and strange radiation. You'll be able to understand the potential for the technology and that should be our very bright future. I'll fix that. There we go. Our very bright future. At the moment, there's 20 people in attendance already. That's more than enough, but there is some room left. And if you want to get a special price, you can contact me at remoteview.icu. I would love to see you there and share these few days with you face to face. It was a real pleasure and an honor to meet so many of you at the conference, the Cosmic Summit Conference in North Carolina, which was the best conference I've ever been to. I would highly recommend those that if it's possible you can make it, you join us in Brno for this conference. Now, what is coming soon? Well, one thing I'm focused on is preserving history, and there's two things that I'm focused towards. One is Mr. Possible, the making of the man and the Hutchison effect, and there will be analysis and commentary in this on his samples, and this will be progressively published behind the paywall on Remote View ICU, and this will be later mirrored to a dedicated blog for the book after a Kickstarter. What we are waiting for on this, this won't be held back on the Remote View, but the Kickstarter and the dedicated blog mirroring of that material is held back and to give time for John Hutchison to complete his lab build. Okay, so you will progressively see material that will be in the book behind the paywall initially at remoteview.icu for those people that subscribe, but that will also be later mirrored for those people who are not interested in anything else that I do or the project does that I'm involved with. It'll be mirrored. All of the material that will go there will eventually be mirrored for those people that are participating in the Kickstarter to help produce the book. And in fact, it's going to be a couple of books, but anyway, what will and is moving ahead, Augusto, as of tomorrow, is the Steps to the Discovery of Electronuclear Collapse Edition 2. And this will involve the hand-typed and edited English and additional papers done by myself and Philip Power, and all the formulas corrected and diagrams regenerated. And then the color photography and video captures that will be captured over the next couple of weeks and probably months by myself, but with the help of Jordan Collins, who came over. I've invested quite a chunk of change in supporting that move here for a couple of weeks so that he can attend the Alchemical conference in Prague, which I can't attend because I'm going to Strasbourg to present Benjamin Huang's and myself's analysis of his work and of various other systems, including the Vega Valley. Anyway, so he will attend those, and expect a Kickstarter imminent to help support that. But you will have an opportunity to actually buy original photographs made by Dr. Takaaki Matsumoto in 1990s, and a lot more. It's going to be epic. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to have a bit of history, things that made history. And so there we go. And just to clarify, there will be a video coming shortly called O-Day 48, and there'll be more videos, but O-Day 48, I will finally give my brief explanations to why I believe the substructures cannot exceed 48, and I believe there's a natural limit to that. And the ICMNS Bill Collis Memorial Workshop between the 1st and the 5th of September, and I will be presenting between 12:30 and 1 o'clock on the 4th of, and the abstract you can find here. And in addition, I will be attending an open meeting about the research in the field at the European Parliament, and I will do my best to represent the work of the MFMP and you that make this all possible. So a lot in the works, so much from my research over the summer Really exciting things to share with you. I mean, it's just like where to begin. But the focus really tonight was to show you that we are switching modes, because basically no one lives forever. And, you know, we have to do this for ourselves. We can't expect those people that have been deceiving us and hiding this technology from us and making sure it can't come to the fore to suddenly release it because they had a change of heart, right? It's not going to happen. So we have several, and this is not an exclusive list, an exhaustive list. These are some of the focuses for our work, and the initial Vega Valley replication is well underway, and it's looking positive. Here, the wind hex is, you'll see some more materials on that, and that is advancing. The clad-off system is best done with, I think, Binja and Huang, and working in any which way that takes that technology forward to achieve those goals. The nuclear siphon, I think, is just a it's like a moonshot. If it works, it's just amazing, and I do believe it is in the same family of processes going on here, and it might be a very important, simple experiment where people can understand the lifting power of the flux of relic neutrinos that are sucked literally from other matter, changing the way the electrons behave and bonds behave. And so I think this is a fascinating little experiment that we might even find time to have a hack at in the next couple of weeks. And then Zeus, for me, is next level in terms of retaking the power of ball lightning and reclaiming ball lightning from Zeus, whether he likes it or not, to humanity, and to end the period of usury and the deceiving forces that have reigned supreme for several, in fact many thousands of years now. The nature of bull lightning, the nature of the fractal toroidal moment structure, the wheel within a wheel within a wheel minimally, is that it has embedded in it golden ratio between the points of disruption and the points of event horizons and the point of construction and destruction. Okay, everything about this, including this point to this point, speaks to golden ratio, and the shape of this cone is a series of spheres of decreasing golden ratio compounding. It's just amazing. When I started on this journey, who would have thought that a simple mind fart in the middle of the night, drawing this, inspired from this and other things that I had seen, would lead to observing this thing across so many different systems, and it leading ultimately to these fractal geometry structures, and then to connect that back to these kind of things across history. Well, we need to preserve history, and we need to deliver on the promises that and take back our birthright. And I hope you can share some of my thinking with me between the 1st and the 6th and the 10th of September here in Brno in the Czech Republic. So with that, I will say that's Ode Relentless, and we must act like nature, be absolutely relentless. Whatever happens, just moving forward. If anyone's got any comments, now that's a good time to ask. If not, I'm quite tired and I will go to bed. So ask your questions if you have any. Thanks again to Vanilla Isis, Mark, Dame, Black Tie, TP Sven, and Bo Sinclair for their generous contributions, which will go significantly towards getting the analysis done of the Vega Valley 1, replication 1. So Tammy says, I already asked way up in the chat, Bob. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to the chat. Can you ask again? That would be great. So, Bob, have you looked into GAN tech for harvesting neutrinos? Do you mean GAN's tech? Do you mean like the guy from Iran? I don't know what you mean. I mean, if that's the case, then yes, I've done stuff on that. Thank you, everyone, for being a big crowd here tonight. It's a total surprise. So, Odd1X Bob, when do you want to make break versus just running the reaction indefinitely? I'm not sure what you mean. Yeah, like, so if you keep overcharging, then you're going to end up with it breaking in an uncontrolled fashion. And unless you've got a place to guide those structures, then, you know, unless you understand how to shield for them, they can mess up electronics, they can mess up your reactor, all kinds of things. So it's better to build them to a certain level and then use them rather than overdriving it and causing breakdown of something. So nuclear siphon, would NBs be in the output? I don't think so. I honestly, I think that is working more like the singing bowl / a normal water spout. Thank you very much, Verity Hand. That's very, very kind of you. This is an all of humanity effort. I know we're a very small community, but with people like the Russian Academy of Sciences, and as such a well-published and well-cited professor at such a level, referencing our work as a means to bother to investigate whether those siphons are a possibility, that's a real honor, and it's one transformative technology spun out of the effect of, in my view, the fractal toroidal moment at varying degrees of its ability to do magic. But it's just science. Do I think water is being transferred to other planets for I think water is coming in naturally. I have to give credit to Matthew Vallat, former director of the MFMP. I'm going to be hanging out with him again. He came and visited me for the first time, which was nice, a couple of weeks back, a month and a half ago or whatever, maybe 2 months ago, or sometime now. And he talked about the fact that when you have a coronal mass ejection, a large proportion of those are protons. And of course, if you've got loads of protons coming towards the Earth, which we've had a lot of recently, to be fair, then those protons will interact with the ozone in the upper atmosphere, and they will form water. They will form water, which may come down on us. So we could have a system where we know oxygen is the number one element in the crust. So if we are to argue that no oxygen really of any real level is being produced in the sun, it's mostly helium being synthesized, we're not in that level of burn cycle, then where did all of the oxygen come from? Well, if it's ball lightning, and ball lightning is one of these carbon, oxygen, and iron, these are the things that get produced in the electronuclear regeneration. If the oxygen is being produced, then it's the most likely thing to be produced, and I've argued why that is, because of its uniquely paramagnetic nature and because it's quad alpha and so on. If so much oxygen is being produced, and then you get these coronal mass ejections of protons from the sun, you don't just necessarily need the odd one out protons being produced in electronuclear regeneration. You could have this influx continuously from the sun from these coronal mass ejections, and you are synthesizing water as a result of it. So I don't think we need to worry about small volumes of water being taken off planet, when I think we are literally being deluged with water that is a combination of synthesized oxygen and protons from the sun. Hi, see you later, William Schwand. So, Odd1X, is Binder and Huang the best anomalous heat experiment to try and replicate? Are there simpler ones? Certainly, I think cavitation is. Binder and Huang has gone through scores of reactors, so I don't know which one in terms of his injector is, but the core principle is quite similar to the Kladoff device, is that you want to have a multi-phase situation at the point where you're creating your cavitation. And to get that, what he does is he raises the water temperature to around about 70 degrees. So he's preheating that so that then you don't need much of a pressure differential, a drop in pressure, to create a cavitation bubble. And then because of the flow dynamics, you get the toroidal moments forming. Can you see any applications for agriculture? Yeah, I've already talked about them. When you convert matter into raw chi, or you are gathering chi and charge clusters, you are embedded that into oxygenated water. That water is the kind of magic water that plants really need. Some work was done in Germany, conducted by Russian researchers, as I understand it, and they do corona discharge onto water, and that water gets this richness of energized state, and then they feed that to plants, and they grow, they germinate faster, and they are more resistant. And the same things are attributed to things like cavitated water, and in the dangerous cavitator of Shishkin, he was actually using water passed through that and finding similar properties. And since they are, the cavitation and the corona discharge will be creating charge clusters in their own ways, it is essentially the same thing that somehow gets embedded into the water. I would argue it gets bound to dissolved oxygen, and that helps the process of germination and good life, as it were. Do you have to perform cavitation in water to get Lena? Are there any other ways? In water, even if you're doing electrical discharge, you're going to get cavitation, so it's difficult to know what's actually doing it. Cavitation is it's more the flow dynamics, as it were. But yeah, I guess you need the cavitation. For me is the toroidal moment, the vortical wheel within a wheel within a wheel structure gets so powerful that it pushes out this non-radiating boundary, and it rejects the charges on the water. Something like that is going on. Yeah, so I have heard of Lenabot, not the one that's produced by New York University. If you go and look at a recent blog, I say who produces that, or rather that it has been produced. Bob, do you know the application Lockheed applies it to? No. Ken Pratt, Bob, are you restricted in what you can say because of governments? No, I am absolutely not. I do not sign NDAs. I sign FDAs, which are full disclosure agreements, and so maybe some things are not shared with me because of that. But my intention is to help, and sometimes people don't want help, but that is my intention. My intention is to take the technology forward in any which way I can. Yes, there's a radiation danger. So if you recycle the water, like Kladoff did, you can end up synthesizing heavy elements which then have normal standard radiation decays, or elements, isotopes that do. And there is also strange radiation. And if you go and look at our MFMP YouTube site and go and look at Shishkin's presentation called A New Form of Penetrating Radiation, he talks about the birdies, the strange radiation that's produced from cavitation. He shows about what their measured impacts on cellulose are in relation to the number of the amount of damage it would do to a red and a white blood cell, and gives an estimate to what that would cause in the case of cancer and health effects. And it's also been measured by doing exploding foils and exploding discharges with rats. It can have a health benefit by stimulating white blood cell production, as long as you don't have something like leukemia beforehand or cancers. You don't want the cancer beforehand. You want to have the stimulation of the immune system beforehand. But I will talk about those kind of things at another time. There's slowly catch a monkey. Yes, Odd One X. Yes, so yes. All right. I have to say that their one is not as good as the Lenabot that refers to, it's not as useful, let's put it that way. Maybe it will be. So, Odd One X is saying, I'd like to pursue a full-time career pursuing Lena. That is tough. It's tough in accepted areas of research. However, part of the reason why we are doing this, right? Creating these as examples of minimum viable products is that there will be a basis from which people can build industries and technologies. Who would have thought that the work that was done with Binger and Huang would lead to an explanation for a siphon that can lift water to a higher level? That may not be true, but if it is, that is epic. So, by involving yourself in whatever capacity you can and trying to understand these things, when these minimum viable products start to be needing people that have some knowledge and understanding of how to take these forward from minimum viable products to commercial products that have a large market, those people that are going to be at the front of the pack of this new paradigm are going to be those people that did whatever they could with the time they had available. Yes, thank you, Odd One X. You've done some fantastic work, and it's very much appreciated. And for those that don't know, I would like to raise some money to out of the Kickstarter for the Steps to the Discovery of Electronuclear Collapse to allow Odd One X to explore some of his skill set in creating things like a timeline and a database and a video archive, so that there will be the most complete record of a scientific discovery in history available for open exploration for people to explore different aspects of what the Dr. Takaaki Matsumoto did. Adonis has got a good tip for those. Just call it deep tech, and you'll have VCs throwing money at you. Well, we're really after people, at this stage, who are not going to want a slice of the pie. That's the point about making minimum viable products. Is the minimum viable product has to be open for everyone to use it, right? As soon as you get a VC in, they start dictating what you can and cannot share, and then you might not have a description of how to build a minimum viable product. You might just have a load of text on a page or a load of videos with data that no one could ever replicate, and that's no good to taking back the ball lightning from Zeus. Thanks for those that have hit the like button. That's appreciated. I hope the quality wasn't too bad today. If it was, then I'll upload a better stream quality. I will publish all of the diagrams that I've shared tonight and what I personally learned from that community effort. We're talking several people that have spent a good proportion of their lives trying to study sacred geometry as used in religion and architecture. And I guess where I find it weird is that I wasn't doing any of that initially. I wasn't expecting to. I was just looking what nature was showing as a result of experimental witness marks and then video clips, and trying to work out what was the forms in 3D that were underpinning those witness marks and actions on video. And it just led me to realize that, you know, nature is somehow doing this thing, and it looks like other people have realized it before somehow, some way. All right, so everyone, I'm going to say thank you very, very much for your time today. It's very gracious of you to spend these hours with me. This was Ode Relentless. If we are going to deliver in our lifetimes, we need to be utterly, utterly relentless in the pursuit of this work. Utterly relentless. We have no choice but to do that. I would like to see these minimum viable products as some of the things that we're able to deliver. And I would again encourage you, if you possibly can, to join me and Paul Harris at the Advanced Energy Systems in Brno here in the Czech Republic, which will be held between the 6th and 10th of September 2024. Reach out to me on remoteview.icu for special pricing. There's about 20 people in attendance already, but there's some room left, and I would very, very much like to see you there. So thank you very much for your time, and I will see you in the next video. Buenas noches, dobranoc. Good night.